And Three Dog Thursday does continue with the video roundtable. Again, if you're only hearing us, come find the roundtable via YouTube. Search for Three Dog Thursday and come find the smiling faces, the moving pictures, all the dialogue, all the back and forth. You can see it as well as hear us via the YouTube roundtable. Ryan Kramer, one of the co-founders, one of the patriarchs, one of the dudes of sportsgamblingpodcast.com. He and Sean Green, Colby Dan, all those guys do a great job. Brother Kramer, great to have you back on Three Dog Thursday. How are things out in Southern California?
Appreciate you having me. Things are great. I looked outside, the sun rose. It's a nice day. We are expecting a bit of a cold spell out here, highs in the mid 60s. So please pray for us. But no, it's great. It's been a dog season for myself and Sean Green on the Sports Gambling Podcast. So happy to jump on and spread some of the dog love with you and the great audience of Three Dog Thursday.
I need help with the college dogs. I'm all right with the NFL dogs, but the college dogs, I've been whiffing left and right. All right, this guy's ready. He is all over it. He's in Arizona, but he's all over the USC beat, TrojanWire.com from USA Today Sports. Matt Zemek back with me, all things college football, but specifically USC. Mr. Zemek, happy Three Dog Thursday. How are you?
We're all alive and life goes on. It's not the end of the world. We just got to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I would say yes. 2020 has been bizarre for a lot of reasons. I was already talking earlier in the podcast that whether you're talking about COVID-19 or elections or sports and craziness. I mean, guys, again, I keep relating this. I'm going to brag as many times as possible in this area. The Tampa Bay Lightning won a Hockey Stanley Cup, immortality for hockey. And they played none of the games in Tampa. They played them in Toronto and Edmonton, Canada. It does not get any more 2020 than that bizarre craziness. And then the Rays tried to match it by going to win playoff games in San Diego, out by you, Ryan, and just past you, Matt Zemek, winning against the Yankees and the Astros, but doing it in San Diego and then playing the World Series and losing to the Dodgers in Arlington, Texas. So it's been a weird 2020 no matter which way that we turn. We try to bring some sanity back with college football. And look, what do I see here? The Pac12 has decided to join the party, Matt Zemek. I see Clay Helton tweeting out, the coach of the USC Trojans, that he can't wait. What he means is now this Saturday for USC and Arizona State at the Coliseum. Is that a look live picture of what it will look like when the game is being played at 9 a.m. Pacific time this Saturday, noon Eastern time? The big noon kickoff on Fox means it's a 9. Will they have a little more daylight? Kramer's the expert, though, on L.A. Will they have a little more daylight than that, guys, for the Coliseum and this early start for USC and ASU? What about it? Boy, Zemek first. What about it? We're going to have breakfast with the Pac-12 here.
Well, that looks like a shot where when the players finish their pregame meal and they might go through the first walkthrough at maybe 6 a.m., 6:30.
Yeah, maybe on something like Ryan Kramer. Are these guys even going to be awake playing 9 a.m. games? This is not the only one they're going to do. There's going to be a couple more, apparently, Pac-12 games in the noon slot on Big Fox all over the country, but that's 9 a.m. local time.
I totally understand the angle of wanting to get your product in front of the eyes of the East Coast. I don't know if having 9 a.m. games is the way to go about it. These are college kids. I'm a grown-ass man. I struggle to wake up. I will say they will have plenty of light. The daylight savings thing, we're all good on that front. But the idea of taking myself back to my college days and thinking, what would it be like to wake up and have to be at a game already tailgated at 9 a.m. This is going to be an all-night endeavor. I don't know. I worry about the safety of the students at USC. This is a lot to take on. And, oh, by the way, they are taking on a team with an older gentleman as the head coach. Perhaps he's a little bit more acclimated to waking up early, and maybe the body clocks of the Devils over there might be a little bit more ready for this game.
Yeah, you're speaking of Herman Edwards on that one. So the Pac-12 is back. And, Matt, what about the expectations for USC here? I mean, we didn't even know there was going to be a season. I will forgive you because you joined in with others and said they're not even going to play a game. They are now playing. It's 7 games. USC always has huge expectations. What are we expecting out of the Trojans?
I'm going to hit that. I just want to address that 9 a.m. kickoff. I think that in a season where you don't have fans, might as well experiment with the television angle and see what kind of ratings you get from it. Doesn't mean you do it long term, but you can at least give it a whirl. And I would also just say in week 1, to get a splash and get noticed at the start of a college football Saturday, it makes a lot more sense. But week 3, week 4, no. But I think in week 1, it makes unique sense. And the only other thing is this 9 a.m. kickoff, it makes sense in the mountain time zones. Have it in Salt Lake City. Have it in Boulder where the local kickoff is going to be at 10. It's 9 a.m. Pacific, but the local kickoff's at 10. That's really where it should have been trialed first before a Pacific time zone location. All right, so now to USC. You know, the fan base knows that Clay Helton's not the long-term answer, not the long-term solution, kind of like a Joe Biden, and you need someone bigger and bolder for the long-term vision in the future. But, you know, the fans want the players to do well. So they're kind of caught in between those two. So they want a reasonably successful season, but, you know, there's not like a lot of optimism that USC is going to get back to the elite Pete Carroll standard under Clay Helton. So I think if you ask USC fans, they would say, you know, we got to win the South. Haven't won the Pac-12 South the last 2 years. Got to take that back. But most would probably figure that Oregon would beat USC in the Pac-12 championship game. And the depressing thing for USC fans is that even if the season's a real bust, 3-3, 4-2, it's probably not going to get Clay Helton fired just because in this abbreviated season, just how much can you extrapolate from that? The other thing, of course, with the abbreviated Pac-12 season is that USC is not playing Alabama or Notre Dame, which take Clay Helton off the hook. He was staring at 2 losses in those 2 games. So USC fans know that this season's not going to get Clay Helton fired. But if USC struggles, it would certainly make 2021 a hot seat season. So, you know, win the South. If USC loses once or twice, that, you know, it means that Helton still has political pressure on his back heading into 2021. So I think that actually hits the sweet spot for USC. It gets them into the Pac-12 championship game, but Clay Helton still really doesn't enhance his job security long term. I think that USC fans would kind of prefer, I think, that situation. It would kind of hit the middle on a number of fronts.
Right, we'll see. And it's a great point about not losing badly, especially to Alabama and Notre Dame might help him, and we'll see what happens. Ryan, just an overall thought, because we're going to talk more about Arizona State when we go to pick underdogs. I think we're all kind of on board with that. But for the Pac-12, we've already seen this with the Big Ten the first couple of weeks. You can't it's difficult to handicap what's the first week look like, right, Ryan?
I mean, if there's one thing we've learned about the college football season is these early games and these conferences, we really don't know what to expect. We don't have the luxury of a NFL style injury report, even where some of this news is breaking late and it's being hidden pretty well. So from the gambling perspective, it certainly is intriguing. If anything, the takeaway is probably be smart, just watch the game when you're performing in this strange year. But of course, we're here to bet. So my thoughts so far is if you know anything about a team, whether we've seen number of returning players seems to matter, returning coaches, returning systems, things that are normal seem to matter more than most. But then you sprinkle in a little contact tracing and it all goes out the window. My Virginia Tech Hokies are a good example of that, where we're finding out hours before kickoff that they're going to be without 20 players. And,
right,
and that's another thing where different conferences are tackling that differently in terms of thresholds to play and things like that. So you almost have to like have a little side legal pet hobby to dig into the rules of this season. But no, I think the biggest takeaway is if you have opinions early, lean into them. You might be horribly wrong, but you might be horribly right. I mean, look at some of the Big Ten big spreads that have just been falling over like a house.
I mean, who in the world had Michigan State off the loss at Rutgers at the Big House, Harbaugh under pressure? Oh, just go ahead and win. Go ahead and really control the game and win in week 2 of the Big Ten is a great example. I love what you're referencing there because Matt's got the big journalism background as well. It's known as the Friday night night news dump. If you've got bad news, dump it on Friday night. Now it's the 30 minutes before the game COVID news dump for the college teams. Let's just dump that 22 guys aren't playing today because they're either COVID positive or they've been around someone that might be. All right, so that leads me to another topic, talking college football here on Three Dog Thursday. Matt Zemek, at Matt Zemek on Twitter. Ryan Kramer is Kramer-centric on Twitter, out of the Sports Gambling Podcast and sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Guys, let's talk about the one that will be in prime time on NBC, Clemson without Trevor Lawrence, as we look here on the screen. Off of a dramatic comeback win against Boston College last week. We're looking at Dabo Swinney, for those of us that are not watching on YouTube and the YouTube roundtable of Three Dog Thursday. And DJ Uiagalelei, the quarterback, the freshman, highly touted, helped lead the comeback last week. All right, that was Boston College at home. Now they go to South Bend trying to remain unbeaten. Lawrence still cannot play under the COVID protocols. So Uiagalelei going to play a huge game right off the bat in game 2 of his career here against Notre Dame. Ryan, let's go to you first. This one's going to have a lot of attention around it. Notre Dame, a home underdog for Three Dog Thursday purposes. What do we think here, guys, about that matchup? Ryan?
Well, first of all, A+ pronunciation. That's not an easy name to get out. I mean, I think this is an interesting opportunity. And it kind of fell perfectly for the ACC to potentially get 2 teams in the playoff now, where they can lean into the Trevor Lawrence wasn't there for this one. And we had a comic who's also a Notre Dame fan on the College Picks show this week on the Sports Gambling Podcast. And as a Notre Dame fan, I sensed a certain level of confidence coming into this one. And while I don't know if Ian Book is still the most exciting guy to get behind, I think the lines on this team and just the location of this game is going to matter. I don't believe the people who are looking at last week's game and saying, look at this team. It doesn't matter if Trevor Lawrence is there. It absolutely matters if Trevor Lawrence is there. I think Brian Kelly gets a rare big-time win here. Not a guy I love to back. I do enjoy backing him as an underdog, though. He's not a guy you lay big points. He's a guy you can take safely as a home dog. I think enough weird stuff happens in the hallowed grounds there. Whether fans, people not, something will go down. I think Notre Dame's a very live dog here. If you're playing this one, if you missed out on the +7, which existed for a little bit this week, I recommend the money line here, TJ.
All right, and we're looking right here at mybookie.ag, big sponsors on the Sports Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast network of shows. They are 6-point underdogs at home to Clemson, and I even did a little research as we come back on screen here. You'll be proud of me that I did a little research here, and you may be able to see this, that Brian Kelly has a 10-6-1 record against the spread as an underdog. He's 1-1 against Clemson, though. And he doesn't even want to talk about the college football playoff semifinal where they got blown out. Matt Zemek, give me a 30-second or less answer on Notre Dame, Clemson. Clay, are you surprised Clemson favored by a touchdown on the road without Trevor Lawrence? Matt, real quick.
Not terribly. I mean, Alabama was favored over Georgia despite the display against Ole Miss. Easily could have felt that Georgia was the better team on form going into that game. I definitely think Clemson's not going to get a blowout. But I do think Clemson narrowly wins by like a field goal, just because I think Clemson's been playing like a bored team in recent weeks. And I think Clemson's going to be sharper. And I think Clemson messed around against BC. So, Clemson's had this pattern in the past where it messes around, but when the lights are bright and the game's big, the Tigers respond well. And I think that not having a lot of fans is going to be just enough of a buffer for Uiagalelei to play well in that game.
Very nice on the pronunciation there, DJ, who, again, we got to keep working on that name because he's going to be a Heisman Trophy contender, if not favorite, and he's probably going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. With that size, that skill, let's see what he can do at the Big House against Notre Dame. All right, time to roll up the sleeves and talk some college football underdogs. I already said in the previous segment that I'm woo-pig suing it with the Arkansas Razorbacks as a home dog against Tennessee. One of those games that I like to say, guys, it's not very profound. The why are they favored game? Tennessee, why are they favored on the road as bad as they've looked? And Arkansas 5 for 5 against the spread so far, 4 of them as underdogs this season. So I'm taking the Hogs. Is there a game that stands out right now? Matt Zemek, I'll go to you first. Give me a game that stands out for an underdog. What might you like? Where are you going?
Well, I might as well stay with the game that I'm going to be focused on this Saturday. Arizona State getting 10.5 points from USC. I think, that seems like a gift. Now, of course, that obviously means that USC is going to win by 21 points. But nevertheless, I'm looking at that. And Jaden Daniels, I think, is going to do extremely well against USC's defense. And, USC has a new defensive coordinator, Todd Orlando, hired from Texas. And he's been talking a very big game about how his disguise coverages are going to really work and give USC a new edge. In week 1, though, after a pandemic offseason, I'm not convinced that loading up the defensive playbook is the right way to go. You should gradually add more and more to your playbook over the course of a season. Week 1, it could be a disaster. So I think USC probably wins outright, but I think you're looking at a 38-35 kind of game. So definitely like Arizona State plus the points.
This is scaring me. Ryan Kramer, do you agree with Matt and sort of with me? I was talking about it in the last segment before we did the roundtable. That's a lot of points at the Coliseum. What do you think, Ryan?
We touched on it earlier. Early season college football in 2020. Why not lean into an opinion? I love that Marvin Lewis is part of the crowd now out there in Arizona. Antonio Pierce. These are guys that I like. These are grown men. And I believe this team will be ready. And I'm going to blow your mind. I gave out Arizona State as my dog of the week on the college football podcast, plus 330 on the money line. So let's get rich this weekend. Nothing pleases me more than the opportunity to fade Clay Helton in a obvious big favorite spot where there's been weirdness around preparation. So I love this spot for Arizona State.
And Jaden Daniels is the outstanding freshman, and once he kicked it into gear at the end of last season, for whatever it's worth, does it translate in the crazy 2020 year in the opener? We don't know. But Herman Edwards was 4-2 as an underdog last year, and Daniels was part of that, including the Oregon upset late in the year. Let's see what that is worth. Ryan, did you have one more doggy that you like for 3 Dog Thursday purposes out of the college game? If I pressed you for another one, did you have another one?
I did, and TJ, you asked me to come on the show, so I figured I'd bring the big guns, and I'm going to go with another plus 330 dog, and that is Kansas State. Kansas State is at home in Manhattan, getting to face Oklahoma State, coming off what we like to call the dream-crushing scenario. They took it on the chin. They lost the game they shouldn't. Now they have to hit the road to one of the 2 weird, really 3 weird stops in the Big 12. Manhattan, Kansas, up there in Iowa State and Morgantown. And they're getting this Kansas State team off an interesting game. This is a team that routinely plays up to their competition. And when you're getting 12.5 points, that feels great. But why not sprinkle the money line? Mike Gundy, he's shown the propensity to lay an egg from time to time. You can even remember earlier in the season against a team like Tulsa. So I think Kansas State live dog in this spot. I definitely love the points. I say sprinkle the money line plus. Actually, I'm seeing as high as plus 350 right now, TJ.
Wow.
So if you want to get real crazy, Arizona State tied with Kansas State. That's gonna be a nice payday.
They're all about the parlays. They're all about teasing it and putting it 3 different directions. It's the Sports Gambling Podcast, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Ryan Kramer hanging with me from Sports Gambling Podcast. Matt Zemek as well from USC's TrojanWire.com, the USA Today website on the USC Trojans. And the only thing about the Wildcats is they burned me last week. I had them on 3 Dog Thursday at West Virginia. Will Howard, I believe it is the backup quarterback, was not good in the game, threw a pick 6. West Virginia all over them, but they come back home, and you're saying, hey, maybe lying in wait here at home for Oklahoma State off the tough loss in overtime to Texas on that one. Only a few minutes left. Do I dare bring up a little National Football League? We're going to talk more in the last segment here in a few minutes with our analyst, Brian Edwards, our senior handicapper that we love to hop on and pick underdogs with us. So a little more NFL. I just want to joke around. I'm going to try out my comedy bits here with Ryan in my presence. So we have the Dallas Cowboys, and here it is. the Dallas Cowboys contemplating against the Pittsburgh Steelers midweek at the time we're taping. Will it be undrafted Cooper Rush, or will it be former Alliance of American Football Spring League quarterback Garrett Gilbert starting against the Pittsburgh Steelers at home? In either one of those instances, it was painful to watch them last Sunday night. It is more than likely going to be painful in this game with the Steelers. Here is the proposition. They love props on the Sports Gambling Podcast and the website. I'm going to go back to boxing, and I'm a big boxing guy, Kramer, and Matt Zemek knows this too. This was the big lightweight title fight in the Alamo Dome last Saturday night. Gervonta Davis on the right, Leo Santa Cruz on the left. It was a great action-packed fight right up until this big moment in the 6th round coming right there, dear God, with the uppercut by Gervonta Davis. We've been talking all about it on BigFightWeekend.com, our boxing website, Big Fight Weekend podcast that can be found on the Sports Gambling Podcast network of shows. My question, Kramer, if you're a Cowboys fan, would you rather endure another 3 hours of watching those quarterbacks, or would you take one shot from Gervonta Davis like this? Would you just go ahead and get it out of the way and take the uppercut from that guy? Or do you want to endure 3.5 hours of Cooper Rush and Garrett Gilbert, or maybe they're going to bring back, I don't know, Clint Longley or Roger Staubach, my God, for the Dallas Cowboys against the Steelers, Ryan?
Oh, I can answer this two ways. I mean, as someone who hates the Cowboys, I would love to see every Cowboys fan get punched with that uppercut. As someone who hates the Cowboys, I'm also terrified right now that they're getting this free opportunity to try out the next quarterback, and they're going to maybe find someone. Now, look, when you're looking between Cooper Rush and Garrett Gilbert, one of these guys has played professional football and one of these guys hasn't. So
true.
But no, I mean, I'll leave you with this anecdote. The Pittsburgh Steelers are priced higher than we've ever seen a defense in DraftKings this week in DFS, $4,900. They are more than like 90% of the starting tight ends. They are more than a number of running back. It's this unbelievable.
Typically, just enlighten us. Typically, a defense would probably be somewhere around $3,000 if they were really good, or $3,500 on your salary cap.
Window,
and they're
exactly.
what? They're $4,900 to buy them on. Because
highest
Cowboys are so bad.
Highest priced defense in the history of DraftKings. That's how bad the Cowboys are. Love every minute of it.
God almighty. What will happen in that game? I'll have another nugget about them being a double-digit underdog at home, the Dallas Cowboys, in our final segment here in a moment. I want to promote one more time for both of these guys and the job that they do as part of the Sports Gambling Podcast. Ryan Kramer, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. He and Sean Green and Colby Dant, why, there they are right here. We're looking at it on the screen on the YouTube roundtable. There they are. Amazingly similar studio as we've been seeing Kramer in. Same haircut. Not sure if it's the same shirt with he and Sean. Eagles fan riding high. Colby Dant there in the middle. Again, check them out at sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Gambling Podcast on social media. Their show is out every week, early in the week, giving you all kinds of advice, pro and college, couple times a week, right, Ryan, that we see you on Sports Gambling Podcast and the video in the show?
Yeah, working too hard. We Sunday night, we do a live recap show of the NFL. Monday, we drop a college picks podcast, the one you're seeing on the screen right now, if you're watching the roundtable. Yep. And then we do a fantasy football episode and a NFL picks episode. So we are early and often.
Ring the bell for all of this. For Matt Zemek, find him right here at Matt Zemek, Zemek. Again, if you're seeing us on the YouTube roundtable, again, spell it out. If you're only hearing us, Matt Zemek, Zemek. And again, the USC Trojan Wire website, I'll click that while we're on screen, is right here to follow the USC Trojans, trojanwire.usatoday.com, where he's writing all about USC and Arizona State. For this week, all things USC, including the Clay Helton watch, right, Mr. Zemek, that you'll be on starting this week, right?
Yeah, well, full game coverage, man, feels great to finally cover a Pac-12 game.
We'll see if he's still saying that in the second half, if Arizona State's putting it on him or not. And go figure. I mean, we got Oregon and Stanford and UCLA and Colorado. Who knows what's going to happen with any of these Pac-12 games?
Washington-Cal is the most interesting game other than USC Arizona State, because winner of that probably has inside track to being the main contender to Oregon in the North.
All right. We'll keep an eye on all of that. Again, breakfast with the Pac-12 at 9 a.m. local time, 10 a.m. now with the time change Zemek time to have some eggs and Tabasco and whatever else you need to watch some Pac-12 football. Again, Ryan and Sean, Sports Gambling Podcast and sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Love these guys. Matt Zemek, Ryan Kramer, thank you for hanging on Three Dog Thursday. Good luck with the Underdogs. Boys, I appreciate it.
Good luck to your Bucks on Sunday against the Saints.
Sunday Night Football for the BUCCANEERS. We'll see what happens with that. More NFL talk coming up. Brian Edwards rejoins me as we continue here on Three Dog Thursday.